So now I'll explain what we'll do today. Just to summarize, I'll prepare instructional material for next week's lessons. We'll do something new, and I'll put it in Google Classroom. I'll let you guys know about it. Good. Thank you very much. Now, on to today's lesson. We're going to review the present tense and present continuous tense. You may want to go here. We'll start with a Kahoot, and maybe, God willing, we'll end with the same Kahoot, and this will count as a grammar quiz. So welcome, and this should be easy. Okay. This should be review. So let's fire up the Kahoot and figure out what you already know or don't know about the present continuous tense and present tense. Then we'll review as necessary, then we'll try the Kahoot again, and then maybe it will count for marks. And these could be the easiest marks you've ever scored. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Wow, Kahoot is really slow. Try that again. Great. So Kahoot has changed its login page, and the login page seems a bit buggier. That is the new login page. There are actually several problems with Kahoot right now. Try that one more time. Sorry, boys and girls. Wow, what's going on here? It seems like Kahoot is very buggy right now. Oh my gosh. This is very strange. Wow. Seems like there are problems with Kahoot. We're going to try it one more time. Otherwise, we will improvise quite soon. again. Boys and girls, have any of you tried to click on this Kahoot here? And were any of you able to access it, this Kahoot here? Seems like the Kahoot is loading and the Kahoot is not loading. That is actually, something's wrong with the Kahoot website right now. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so let's do something else. Let's go back. All right. So first things first. When we review the present tense in this lesson, we're reviewing it in the context of schedules and timetables that are not likely to change. That is, they are stable. The first activity is, can you find a schedule or timetable online, please? And then share the link in our group chat. I'll say it again and I'll type it. Can you please find a schedule or a timetable online? Can you share the link to the schedule or the timetable? Let's try that first. I think the first thing we should think about is what kind of schedule, what kind of timetable. I'm going to find one. Let's see. I used to live in Discovery Bay. In Discovery Bay, and runs a ferry between Central and Discovery Bay. Discovery Bay ferry timetable. So I know this timetable exists, so I'm going to find it. All right, so here we go. I input Discovery Bay ferry timetable, and I get Discovery Bay ferry schedule. Okay, so schedule and timetable are more or less interchangeable. They are similar words. So I'm going to take a look. And then there's some more schedules too, not just ferry, but other transport schedules. Let's take a look. All right, we found our ferry schedule. So you see ferry schedule, you see a sentence. It's pretty small. You see some time, dates and time. If you're interested, you also see present tense. So I found this very schedule. Can you please find a schedule or a timetable online? There's no point in using the present tense to describe schedules or timetables if you don't know what a schedule or a timetable is. So that's why I'm doing this first. Great, Leba. Super. Let's see. Super duper, Leba. Nice job. Okay, wow, look at this. Stanford American School. Super duper. Let's see if we can't blow that up. Okay. So Leba shared, blow this up. So Leba has shared a timetable. A timetable. See a table? Not a physical table, but a table in terms of you see columns and you see rows. That's a table. So we see a timetable at Stanford American School, Hong Kong. Cool. Dr. Wu used to work at the school across the street from Stanford American School. All right. Nice. Anyone else? Before we start talking about the timetable, can you find a timetable? That's the first learning target. So Kahoot's down. Anyone else? Okay. So now that we have a timetable or schedule, then we can figure out the language. Not only, for instance, the verb tense, but the choice of verbs and words to use to describe a timetable. Here we go. Let's blow this up. So what do we talk about when we talk about timetables? That's our second learning target. So we can make statements. Something starts. Something ends. So we can answer questions like, when does X start? What time does Y end? When does X start? Let's try that. What time does Y end? And X and Y are variables, like in maths. Oh, here's another verb. What time does Z depart? Similarly, we use an opposite word. When does A arrive? So we're learning some words, and specifically verbs, to use in the present tense to describe schedules and timetables. Okay, we can also use simple present tense to talk about the future when giving instructions. Sure. So these are actions when you're giving instructions. And then we can use other words. So you see in this case, two clauses. You see future tense and you see present tense. Okay, sure. So that should be a review. Now let's talk. Talk or type? Leba. At what time does morning advisory start?
7:45.
Okay. Now, thank you for answering. The point of this lesson is to review the present tense, which means you must speak complete sentences like I'm speaking complete sentences. So let's do it again. Listen
The lesson starts at 7:45.
Listen carefully. At what time does morning advisory start?
Morning advisory starts at 7:45.
Okay. And when does morning advisory end?
Morning advisory ends at 7:55.
Okay, great. Now, Leba, ask me a question about the timetable.
What time does drama start?
Drama starts on Mondays at 9:25. Ask me another question.
When is what day is music lesson?
Music lesson. Okay. We have music lessons on Tuesday, or we have music lesson on Tuesday.
Yep.
Okay, great. Jermaine, X, Y, Z, and A are variables. I'm going to digress just a little bit now. Have you guys learned algebra? Have you learned algebra and maths? Algebra and maths. Okay, so in algebra, we start learning about variables, something that stands for something else, something that can change. I'm going to give you a brief introduction to algebra. A variable. Okay. So, where's this? Okay. So this is a variable. Now I draw your attention to two things. This definition, able to assume different numerical values. So, for instance, in the equation, 5 plus x equals 7, x equals 2. X is the variable. If we plug in another equation, 3 plus y equals z, if y equals 4, z equals 7. Okay? So you see that these variables can change. They're able to assume different numerical values. If y equals 5, z equals 8. Okay? So just based on that equation, 3 plus y equals z, if you start changing one thing, then something else starts to change. So that's a variable. Now, what we're using, the meaning we're using, is here. Not consistent or having a fixed pattern, liable to change. Actually, let's go down here. Sorry. Let's go down, scroll down. Okay. So we can use variables in English too. It's when we take English, we take math, we just put them together. So for instance, Jermaine, going back to my questions. When does X start? And if we take a look at our timetable, X can be anything. X can be morning advisory. X can be math. X can be lunch. So I'm just using variables to illustrate that you can say anything, almost anything, in this structure. Do you, Jermaine, understand what X, Y, Z, and A are? Okay. I'm sorry about that. I'll try not to use variables when I write in English. Okay. Let's be a bit more concrete. So, Jermaine, question for you. Answer in a complete sentence. You can speak it or type it. When does snack time begin? So based on this timetable, when does snack time begin? That's for you, Jermaine. Angelica, can you ask us a question? Can you type a question for us? And Bosco, can you type a question for us too? Based on this timetable? Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. Jermaine, can you answer Angelica's question, please? You can type it out. Okay, all right. Okay, this is good. Now, Jermaine, I need to draw your attention to some things. One, Angelica asked you a question. What tense is the verb in the question, in Angelica's question? Say it again, Jermaine. What is the tense of the verb in Angelica's question? Okay. Now, oftentimes we should follow the tense of the question when we answer. So somehow you transformed your answer into the future tense. So I just share that with you. Right? That's why we're reviewing. We're learning to talk about timetables and schedules, not only to use or which words, which verbs to use, but which verb tense to use. So if you were to revise, I think a more appropriate answer is we have art lesson on Wednesday or Wednesdays, doesn't really matter. Now I'm going to draw your attention to your first answer. That is, when does snack time begin? And let's ask this. Jermaine, what is the tense, the verb tense of your answer? Okay, it's the present tense. Now, I'm going to draw your attention to some forms of the present tense. Again, this is review. Listen carefully. The show starts at, I can't see the answer, 5 p.m. And ends at 8 p.m. The train departs in less than 5 minutes. You walk down the street. You turn left. They get married. Now, question, Jermaine. Do you think your answer is grammatically correct? Snack time begin in 9:25. Okay, not only that, okay, good. You're on a roll, Jermaine, right? But what else can you change? Again, we're learning about the language, not just the verb tense. There's something else. Take a look at this clause or this example here. The show starts at 5 p.m. and ends at 8 p.m. Yes, now you're starting to get it. So, two things, actually several things. One, when we talk about a timetable, we can use words like start and end. We should also use prepositions, and maybe the most important preposition is at. We'll also need to conjugate our verbs, that is, change the verb form, depending on whether the verb or the subject is singular or plural. Okay. So, if I were to answer your question again, I would say snack time begins at 9:25. Okay. Jermaine, can you please ask a question about the timetable for us to answer, please? Let's see if this Kahoot thing works. Okay. Type your question, Jermaine. Ask us a question. Let's see if Kahoot works. It does work. Okay. Ooh. Okay, great. So let's get an answer first. Leba, can you please answer? You can speak it if you want.
Period 1 starts at 7:55.
Okay. Now let's go. Thank you very much. Let's go back to the question, Jermaine. When we form present tense questions. Sometimes we need to change the verb, that is, conjugate the verb. Just like, one sec, I'll give you an example with a sentence. The show 0900. The shows start. The shows start. So you see, the show starts, singular, starts. The shows start, plural, start. When we ask questions, we have to do the same thing. But sometimes we have to use more than one verb. So in the question, when does period 1 start? We have 2 verbs. But only one changes. Bosco, which verb should be changed? Does or starts? Does, okay. So we change or conjugate one verb, then the other one is the base form, the bare infinitive. So you don't change start. So another way to ask the question, if I were to ask your question, I would say, when does period 1 start? So does shows the present tense. Start doesn't show anything at all. It's just a bare infinitive. So I'll share with you, I'll do it one more time. You can take a look at that question. When does snack time begin? And does shows the present tense, and begin doesn't show anything at all. Jermaine, can you ask another question for us, please? Then we'll finish. Now, Jermaine, I'm really glad we're having this lesson because I'm trying to train you to think about a timetable in a certain way. And what we're learning about today is not only the words that we can use when talking about a timetable, but the tense, the time. So I'm confused when you use the future tense. The reason why we use the present tense is because this timetable or schedule doesn't change. It's very stable. It's factual. So that's one reason why we use the present tense. So can you ask that question again using the present tense? Okay, great. So we use the present tense because we always have math lesson here and here. So we have math lessons on Tuesdays and Fridays from 7:55 to 9:25. Oh, we also have math lesson on Thursday. We have math lesson on Monday. Okay. Any questions? So we achieved these learning targets. One, I can read a schedule. I can read a timetable. Two, I can use the present tense of verbs to talk about a schedule or a timetable. And three, I can use the present tense of verbs to write about a schedule or a timetable. So we did the first three. That's pretty good. So I'll prepare videos next week, and we'll do something new. And hopefully Kahoot will be up as well. We can do that. And then we'll be back to live lessons in 2 weeks' time. All right? That's it. You guys, everyone can go except Jermaine. Jermaine, please answer the question. What is one thing that you learned today in this lesson? Everyone else can go. Jermaine, stay, please. Please answer that question. Bye, guys. Have a good weekend. God bless you.